Hello and most welcome to H 1870. Well, to say the least, we are progressing swiftly towards the amazing 2000. There's merely 130 remaining to the 2000. I do not now remember where the 1000 took place. Was it in Stockholm or where was it? It's gone now from memory. The big millennium. Well, the second big millennium. And now adding with the lovely writing of different interpreters of Wittgenstein. Today we will add yet another article by Francis Lin. Wittgenstein on the impossibility of following a rule only once. There's no summary to be said here, since we have just started. But I would make an exception and say something directly. My first guess, the classical laws.
Abstract. There is an abstract on page 2.
Yes, I know, but I would like to say a summary before I even start the article, or an anticipation of a summary. And that is something of the sorts of, in classical physics, the laws will be there even if nothing ever happened in the universe. I think that is something to ponder. You can have that in the background when you start moving your thinking around this. State of the universe as it is now, as we perceive it to be, or as we assume it to be, is that the laws of physics will be there even though nothing ever happens in the universe. Now, of course, things do happen in the universe, but remember this, there doesn't seem to be any connection between the laws and the events. I think you all know by now that events play a much more important role in quantum mechanics. Actually, it is much more important than time and space. That comes a good second, but still not in the first place. Wittgenstein's remark that one cannot follow a rule only once has generated two puzzles. One, how can everyone accept it to be true? And second, why does Wittgenstein advance it? These two puzzles have tormented commentators. Yeah, it is actually true. Commentators for decades. In this paper, I put forward a new interpretation and explain away the two puzzles. Interesting. I shall show that Wittgenstein's remark is plain truth. and that his motivation behind making it is to dissolve the picture theory of meaning propounded in the Tractatus. This interpretation also helps us to see that Wittgenstein's other remark, that to follow a rule is a custom, is also a grammatical one. Introduction. Rule following is a most important topic in the philosophy of the later Wittgenstein. This topic has been widely discussed and hotly debated in the literature. In his philosophical investigations, Wittgenstein writes down the following remarks on the nature of rule following. Is what we call following a rule something that it would be possible for only one person, only once in a lifetime to do? And this, of course, a gloss on the grammar of the expression to follow a rule. Is what we call following a rule something that it is not possible that there should have been only one occasion on which only one person followed a rule.
Rule.
It is not possible that there should have been only one occasion on which a report was made, an order given or understood, and so on. To follow a rule, to make a report, to give an order, to play a game of chess are customs, usages, or institutions. In this passage, Wittgenstein asks about whether for only one person to follow a rule only once And he answers it explicitly, no. The statement, it is not possible that there should have been only one occasion on which only one person followed a rule, is supposed to be a remark on the grammar of the expression to follow a rule. In other words, it is supposed to be a genuine description of how the expression to follow a rule is used. And it should be known to everybody. Yet it seems to be anything other than a piece of common knowledge. The last sentence in PI 199 is difficult to comprehend too. Apparently, according to Wittgenstein, following a rule is a custom.
Custom.
But few people would agree that this is a piece of common knowledge of grammar. Where's my grammar? She's over there. Thus, what PI 199 says seems to be in conflict with Wittgenstein's conception of philosophy, which is that philosophy only says that what everybody agrees to, what is known to us all, and does not assert anything disputable. The central remark in PI 199 is it is not possible that there should have been only one occasion on which only one person followed a rule. I shall call it the not one person once remark. That's an odd name.
Not one person once remark. Not one person once remark.
This remark has troubled commentators for decades. It generates two puzzles. How can everyone accept it to be true? And two, why does Wittgenstein advance it? The first question concerns the truth of the remark. And the second, the motivation. I shall therefore refer to them respectively as the truth puzzle and the motivation puzzle.
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 Although there is a vast literature on Wittgenstein's thoughts on rule following, only a small number of scholars have tried to interpret the not one person, one's remark in any detail. In any detail. In no detail. In what detail? These interpretations fall into two categories: direct ones and indirect ones. The direct interpretations take the not one person, one's remark straight on. And try to see whether it is true. The indirect ones take the truth of the remark for granted and try to explain the truth in terms of concepts such as custom, practice, and regularity.
Regularity.
I shall analyze these two types of work in turn. I shall make it clear that these interpretations all fail to solve the truth and motivation puzzles. I shall then provide a new interpretation which can explain away these puzzles. On this basis, I shall further explain why the remark that rule following is a custom is a grammatical one too. That is why all competent speakers can assent to it. Assent. They can all assent to it. But before embarking on these tasks, I think that we'd better get clear about what Wittgenstein means by grammar and some related terms. I have no idea what my grammar is going to do here. 2. Wittgenstein on grammar. Grammar is a key concept in the later Wittgenstein's philosophy, for his whole philosophical investigation is a grammatical one, PI 90, which is based on the notion of grammar. The importance of this concept cannot be overstated. And a number of scholars have made strenuous efforts to explain it.
Strenuous.
It is impossible to give a full treatment of the topic in such a limited space here. What I hope to do in this section is to pave enough ground on which to conduct the evaluation of previous interpretations of the not one person once remark, and to present my own interpretation of it. On the notion of grammar, Wittgenstein writes, grammar describes the use of words in the language. So it has somewhat the same relation to the language as the description of a game. The rules of a game have to the game. Grammatical rules as they currently exist are rules for the use of words. Grammar thus consists of grammatical rules. That is, rules for use, which provide explanation of the meanings of signs. There are several types of grammatical rule. The first type is the ostensive definition.
Ostensive.
Ostensive, dear old Augustine. Where are you? Where is Augustine? For example, this color is called red, is a grammatical rule. Which says that red is used to designate this color. The second type of grammatical rules has explicit formulation. For instance, an unmarried man is called a bachelor. What? What? Is this a dead parrot? What a surprise.
Bachelor. Ex-bachelor.
Yeah. The third type of grammatical rules specifies the circumstances in which a word is used. An analogous rule in chess is, in such a case, this is how one moves. The fourth type of rules specifies the necessary conditions under which an expression can have meaning. An example being red and green don't come together at the same location at the same time. If red did not satisfy this rule, then red would not have the meaning it's supposed to have. I shall call such rules necessary condition rules. Sounds like an app name, doesn't it? I think so. Now we come to two extremely important features of grammatical rules. The first feature is that grammatical rules are indisputable. The only things that are exact and unambiguous and indisputable are the grammatical rules, which in the end must show what is meant. The second feature of grammatical rules is that we have known them all along. All along have we known them, all our lifetime. Grammatical rules are the grammatical facts to which the philosopher needs to give a clearly surveyable representation. They are what we have always known. And what we need to remind ourselves of. A central part of Wittgenstein's philosophy is to describe the grammatical rules, grammatical facts, which are indisputable and are known. Grammatical rules have to be described. Many of Wittgenstein's remarks are thus rule-describing remarks. But Wittgenstein does not describe grammatical rules for the sake of doing it. He does it for a particular purpose, to dissolve philosophical problems.
Dissolve. Dissolve.
Dissolve!
Look, look, look. Look, look.
His grammatical investigation should have results, the most important of which is that certain philosophical problems completely disappears.
Completely disappear. Completely disappear.
These results also have to be stated, and Wittgenstein's corresponding remarks are thus result-stating remarks. Note that the results are based on the description, reminding, and surveyable representation of grammatical facts, which are known and indisputable. So the results themselves are also indisputable. Even if some of the result-stating remarks may look like theses, it would never be possible to debate them, because everyone would agree to them. Both both rule describing remarks and result stating ones can be called grammatical remarks because they are directly or indirectly related to grammar. Both types of remarks are indisputable.
Indisputable. Indisputable. Indisputable. Indisputable. Indisputable.
To help understand these notions, let us consider how Wittgenstein dissolves
Dissolves.
the problem of private language. A philosopher who is captured by the Augustinian picture, the I1 for those, might be inclined to think that one can name a sensation by private ostension, and hence speak a private language which only the speaker understands. Can a private language exist? How does Wittgenstein approach this problem? Since a language, at least a large part of it, consists of names, the problem boils down to whether private names can exist. Wittgenstein pays attention to the grammar of the words private and name. Private and name. First, he, in LPE, points out that for a sign to be a name, a condition, rule, must be satisfied, which is, and listen now, and if a person used the sign without criterion of correctness, for instance, he used it anyhow, at will, or used it to refer to something else every time, then we would not want to call it a name. This is a grammatical rule as a necessary condition for a sign to be called a name. So it is a necessary condition rule. Aha! For example, if red failed to satisfy N, then it would not have the meaning it is supposed to have. Wittgenstein then shows that in the case of private language, there is no criterion of correctness. This, together with N, shows that private names are not really names. So private language, which looks like a language, is not really a language. In other words, private names and private language are not possible. Note that the rule N is admitted by every speaker. Even a philosopher of the Cartesian bent has to admit it.
Even a philosopher of the Cartesian bent has to admit it.
He might dispute with Wittgenstein and think that the mind can provide the criterion of correctness. But he must acknowledge that his use of names should have such a criterion. Whether he will agree to the thesis that private language is impossible depends on whether he accepts Wittgenstein's proof of the lack of a criterion of a correctness in the case of private language.
Whether he accepts Wittgenstein's proof of the lack of a criterion of correctness in the case of private
Great.
language.
A few more examples can be of further help. Consider the indisputability of result-stating remarks. Take, for example, Wittgenstein's investigation of the concept of game. The result is that games do not have a common feature. Rather, the concept of game is a family resemblance concept games form a family. Everyone who followed this investigation carefully would assent to this remark.
Would assent to this remark.
Or consider Wittgenstein's investigation of the concept of sudden understanding. Sudden understanding! Hooray! Eureka should be the term. After surveying how the expression "I now understand" is used in various circumstances, Wittgenstein obtains some results.
Really? Some results. Oi, 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 hooray.
One is that none of the manifestations or accompaniments of understanding can be identified with understanding.
Accompaniments of understanding cannot be identified with understanding.
A further result is that understanding is not a mental process. If one followed this grammatical investigation carefully, he would also agree to these results.
He would also agree to these results.
By making grammatical investigations of a host of other concepts, such as reading, guiding, rule following, and thinking, Wittgenstein shows that the essence of each of these concepts is not some entity in the world, and that to understand these concepts, we must look at how these words are used.
How these words are used.
The overarching result is stated in PI 371. Essence is expressed by grammar.
PI 371 essence is expressed by grammar.
Again, if one carefully followed all those grammatical investigations by Wittgenstein, he would not find this remark disputable.
Disputable. Disputable. Disputable.
To sum up, Wittgenstein aims to dissolve philosophical problems through a grammatical investigation. He focuses on the grammatical rules, facts, and shows that philosophical problems can be dissolved. In doing this, he only needs to make grammatical remarks. Rule describing remarks and result stating remarks, both being indisputable. There's no need for him to resort to anything which is hypothetical. Hooray!
Hypothetical.
Now, what about the not one person once remark? In the light of the above discussion, it should be accepted to be true by everyone. But is it so?
Soul.
Let us look at what previous commentators say on this issue.
Previous.
I think this could be a good place to put pause before starting with gin. Ginette.
Indeed. Page 139 and page 139 in PDF, page 7.
Last word being this issue, or last two words.
This issue. Page 139. 139.
Let us go to some comments. Very good, Kalle. Yeah, already ahead of me. Let's see what we can find here. Let's see. Let us see. It is a bit introductory, so my first quote would be on page 135. And the first puzzle is, of course, how can, and that is on the third paragraph, fifth line. It generates two puzzles. One, how can everyone, so you need to go to the third paragraph. How can everyone accept it to be true? You not find. You go up, we count the paragraphs from the very beginning. There, the first paragraph is on, the second in this passage, and then you'll have to go to the third paragraph. That one, yes. And here we have 1, 2, 3, fourth line. It generates two puzzles. One, how can everyone accept it to be true? And the second being, why does Wittgenstein advance it? And this covers the truth of it, or the validity, and also the why of the whole thing. And then we swiftly jump to the next page, 136. On the third paragraph, we have the one mentioned before. And we went for this some time ago, but it's the different types of grammatical rules. Earlier, we have mentioned the ostensive definition, or the ostensive word, like red. You point it, you designate it. The second one is an explicit formulation. An unmarried man is a bachelor, which, do note, is very unusual. It does exist in the language game, but it is unusual. To take something that is unusual and to make it standard, that I would say is, well, a bit of an oversimplification, but that is the picture mistake in a nutshell. The third rule is the grammatical rules. Those are almost all words. How do you do it? The move, how a pawn moves in chess, is what a pawn is. A pawn is not a pawn by itself. Why is that? Why wouldn't the pawn be a pawn in itself? Well, it could abnormally be a pawn in an antique shops, where you find this nice Persian chessboard with some pawns that are made of ivory or something other precious materials. Why not jade? That's an unusual way. You would say that's a pawn. But pawn in the 99.99% is the use of the pawn in the game. That's the more normal use. It doesn't just stand there for you to look at. It will still be a pawn, but not in the same way. The movement of the pawn is extremely important. Otherwise, it wouldn't be a pawn. In the same way, a chair wouldn't be a chair if you can sit on it, use it as a chair. And I would say that different ways of using a chair are millions of them. And you're so accustomed to them. You have put years and years of effort into learning how to sit on a chair, and to sit on a chair, keep your balance. That's forgotten. And you go on to say, oh, there are chairs in the world by themselves. You don't have to do anything. The fourth type of rules specifies the necessary conditions, and then we moved a down bit. And those are what we called earlier the FR. Formulating a rule or following a rule, or why not RF, rule following. Red and green do not come together at the same location at the same time. This is a decisive rule. Red wouldn't be red if it didn't follow this rule. So red is not only ultra or a certain wavelength on light or a certain chemical composition on the surface of a red object. No, 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 no. It is also the grammatical rule and its use and the ostensive definition which often comes with color. Well, that was quite meaty. Let's go to the fun stuff. 137, if you might. Second paragraph, and this is something that makes Wittgenstein be different from every single thinker ever on this world. He describes, and that should be separable and separated most decisively from prescribe. The classical laws of physics are prescribed. Somebody said they exist and said they should be there. They should be there a priori and a posteriori forever and ever and ever. Wittgenstein is merely describing. Everyone will be able to agree. And then further down, we go into what is a name. So it's the penultimate paragraph and the last one. So what is a name? And he goes into what is a name. It's a certain way of use. So I mentioned the chair. The chair is not the material substance, is not the matter. It is not the woodiness, it is how you use the chair. Remember Pfeiffer, reality is movement. Both our understanding and what's out there consist of movement. And last here we have a very short definition here in the quote. It's from LPE. And if a person used the sign without a criterion of correctness, for instance, he used it anyhow, at will, or used it to refer to something else every time, then we would not call it a name. In the parrot sketch, the vendor, the shopkeeper, is not using it consistently for the liveness of a parrot or what a parrot should do. It's not a description of the parrot. You do something with the parrot. You touch it. If it doesn't move, it is not part of the name parrot. And this is this very hard thing to understand, that there is actually some sort of movement behind everything. We tend to forget it. Once we forget it, we lose what names are. They are a specific action. If we go to page 138, we have once more a little mentioning here, and it's maybe a little further down. Let's see how many lines it is. Let's see here, 7 or 8. Yeah, there you have it. The Cartesian bent. Even a philosopher of the Cartesian bent has to admit it. He might dispute with Wittgenstein and think that the mind can provide the criterion of correctness. But he must acknowledge that his use of names should have such a criterion. And now, thank you for your patience. Now we have something absolutely tangible here. And the tangibility is consciousness in the private language picture is a sort of reflective faculty somehow, in a murky and unclear way. This is very close to Rodolphe Gachet's The Reflective Mirror, that the mind is observing things somehow, or looking at the things somehow, and that the mind is a sort of necessary component in reality, and its purpose is to tell when we should use a word, concept, a thought, or whatever. For you, for the ones who follow the series, it is a bit like an internal panopticon, being inside of your head and telling, oh, now I need to follow that rule for that one. What internal rule do I have here? And so forth and so on. This extra mind is completely senseless. And that is, of course, the Cartesian bent. The Cartesian bent is to fall into the idea of the mind as a correctness giver or reflector or some sort of mirror or some sort of higher organism that, I don't know, observes everything and make details and can tell when somebody privately should follow a certain rule or use an expression in a certain way. The help is, of course, once more family resemblance. The second paragraph, third line. Well, I'll start with the second line already. Take, for example, Wittgenstein's investigation of the concept of game. The result is that games do not have a common feature. Rather, the concept of game is a family resemblance concept. Games form a family. And I think the understanding of this should come a little by little. For me personally, I think the idea of football/soccer has been very persistent. But now I realized that family resemblance includes so many games. Some doesn't really have that strict purpose as a soccer game. It could be a play made by children, and where they, by repeating rules, get sort of weak games. If you're sorry about that, but weak games, I'll say, where they only establish a rule a couple of times. Say, for instance, in the sandbox, they invent some rule. It's only followed once or twice or 3, 5 times. Let's say 5, 6 times, somewhere in that vicinity. And then you have the establishment of really weak rules that would be stronger after the second time. Well, there won't be at all after the first time, which makes sense. The second time, there will be a tendency. A third time, it becomes stronger. Fourth time, even stronger. And if you put your mind to, I think you can remember being very little and engaging in a play with other kids, how this sort of started by itself. And how these plays never turn into very strict games. These games do share family resemblance. They are all of the language game family. But they do not share traits. They do not share properties. They do not share sameness. They do not even share how the rules are being followed. Only that there are criterions and that there are uses. This, I think you can understand now, that is something everyone can agree to. One needs to think very carefully, and then one realizes, aha, yes, he has a point there, Wittgenstein. In each and every case, there is some sort of rule following. And that cannot be broken once really established in the way it is established, like red and green. Tade, come and join. Welcome to the game.
Thanks. Let's go to page 4. So it's in page 136. 136. As you remember, Hans, in another paper by Lin, we had the same paragraph. So Lin has repeated himself. Do you remember it?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, it was 2 articles ago.
I actually, yes. And I even have the lecture number, exact lecture number. So please write it down. I recommend you H1831, 1831, where we discussed
1831. Thank you very much.
And so Lin has copied one article, one paragraph from his another paper, but there is one difference actually in these two paragraphs. So since you say aha, I think you have missed it, Hans. Can I say it?
Yeah, sure.
So the first 3 are identical, but in this paper he has added a 4th rule. So this was not in the other paper, the 4th type.
No, he's added what is called FR, following a rule thing.
And this is actually
which is a very important feature. Very important feature.
Indeed, and the great takeaway in this first part of this paper is actually this whole paragraph, because here you have the definition of what is grammar for Wittgenstein, or grammar rules, and there are 4, which Lin very eloquently formulates. So this is something, a great takeaway that we all.
It's a great takeaway. Thank you very much. Yeah.
All, not only Wittgenstein, but also all linguists should study this. And so in general linguistics, they usually speak only about these 2 things. In general linguistics, these are the
general
explicit.
Linguistics is only the 2 ones. Yeah.
These are so-called explicit rules. Rules, while the 3rd and 4th are the implicit ones.
Yeah. Very good. Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
I would, however, I'm not completely. Oh yes, please, Hans, please.
Yeah, they are implicit. I know exactly what you mean, but as always, it's a bit more complexion to what Wittgenstein says. In the red and green example, you can actually say, but mostly, as you say, which is very important, you cannot. It's completely implicit. It's completely implicit. Yes. Sorry. Yeah. Continue.
Although it's not that I would necessarily agree to 100% to this, because this rule, red and green don't come together at the same location at the same time, is a little bit contrary to the family resemblance rule. Because this makes it seem as if there were harsh boundaries between red and green.
Yeah, it does actually. Yeah, but I think, oh yeah, you have that yin and yang. Yeah, good one.
But most pictures of yin and yang are a little bit leading. Let me see. They make it seem as if the borders are very harsh, like very clear cut.
Yeah, indeed.
So it's a little bit misleading for us Westerners.
It is. There are no harsh lines between red and green.
Let me see if there is. Let me see if there is something better that actually shows this idea. No, most of these put harsh lines between them. That is a little bit misleading. Let me see.
I think you have a quantum mechanic yin and yang there, which is a bit entrant. It was actually red and green.
You mean this one?
No. Let's see if I can show you where it was. I saw it just recently.
Okay. You mean earlier? Here.
A bit up, yeah.
Please tell me stop. You mean like
no,
this? No,
go down. It was red and green, and it's the quantum mechanical. No, bit more down.
But I think this is
there. You have it. There it was. Down.
Okay.
Down a bit, and there you have the quantum mechanical, red and green.
You mean this one?
Right. Go right. Yeah.
This.
Yes.
Yes. Let me see. It also says we could actually go and check what it says. China. By patience.
There you see, it is murky. You find red spots in the green spots, and vice versa.
Oi. Some error. Okay, but you get the point.
I get the point. And
so let me. Yes. So let me go to something else here. We can go to the Cartesian bent. It's about names that even Cartesian philosopher has to agree that names must be common and agreed by everyone. And I would like to show you something that might be an exception to the rule. No, it's not really an exception to the rule, but you might remember this paper by Moise Steve that I mentioned already this morning. Steve.
Yeah, I remember. It was very nice. It was the lamb and the lion take turn. I like that.
And this is a great paper. Let me see. So it is as though John had adopted the familiar synagogue practice of perpetual Kesib Kere. So Kesib is the okay. So here, thereby a word or phrase that appears in the traditional text is read as another word of.
You disappear a bit, Kalle. You need to speak up.
Okay. It is as though John had adopted the familiar synagogue practice of perpetual Kesib and Kere.
Yeah.
Whereby a word or phrase that appears in the traditional text is read as another word or phrase. Wherever the tradition says lion, read lamb. So how does this relate? Yes, so in the written text, in the Hebrew text of the Old Testament, you can find the whole name of God, Yahweh, Jehovah. Tetragrammaton not, but the rule is that you should only read it, but not speak it aloud. You should only. So you should not read it. So it's written one way, but you read it aloud in one way. Do you get it?
So you read it within your, not loud. You don't speak it out. You just read it.
Yes, for yourself silently.
Yeah.
So if you encounter it, you say it Lord in English. So this is a kind of private language. If you get my point, or it's a kind of secret name or holy name.
Yes, you can have. Yeah, you can have unspoken language, of course, which you're silent. You can whisper and you can go down in whisper. In the end, you will only move your lips, maybe, and then you take it further. Not even your lips will be moving. This is the same process when we were young. When we were small, we began by moving our tongues and mouths and everything, and then that slowly disappeared.
But you could actually argue against this Jewish practice of not speaking aloud the whole name by using Wittgenstein. What is
maybe
because if you don't read it aloud, it's private language. What is the point? What is the point of having a whole name if you don't use it?
Yeah. Yeah, good point. It's a bit like a dead parrot, isn't it?
Yes. Speaking of, to finish something.
It's a bit like a dead parrot. Poor John, please.
Do you remember the name of the parrot? Do you remember
it was
the
a
name of the
female
parrot?
name. I don't know exactly.
Polly.
Polly?
Polly.
It was
yes,
Polly.
I think it was Polly. And the point is that Polly is a kind of private name.
Oh, yeah.
It's not a parrot name.
What is John Cleese wearing? Oh, he has a raincoat. He has a raincoat. Yeah. Poor Polly. Poor Polly. You can say that the shopkeeper is stiff-necked. He doesn't have a good posture.
Which stone dead.
Great. That's a good sketch. And as you showed at one time, it was also used by Margaret Thatcher. It's very good. It's now we have
So
the
here
criterion.
you have several. Here you have several points. So you need empirical proof. You have it here. So it's not enough with syntax, grammar, and then you also need a language, a name. Poly.
Yeah. Polymorphous, dead and alive. It's very good.
Let's end there, Hans.
Yeah, thank you very much for once more entering into the parrot sketch. Let's see if we can't use Monty Python. It could be that there are some lawsuits or whatever you call it, copyright things with Monty Python. It'd be nice to use that to ease up the atmosphere. And since I think that John Cleese is the only one famous who ever mentioned Wittgenstein in any situation whatsoever in the Fawlty Towers episode with parrot, actually. It's not a pigeon. It's a pigeon, sorry. Pigeon in the water tank, not a parrot. The name of that pigeon, I don't know. It's probably Polly as well. But it seems that Polly, in this case, is polymorphous. It's either dead or alive. And of course, as you remember, Mr. Fawlty gets rather miffed. Thank you very much for your comments, Kalle. As usual, you're a great help. Thank you also for rule number 4. And I think that will be very helpful when we go further in this article. I say to everyone for participating, have a beautiful morning, afternoon, day, night, or wherever you are. Thank you for entering into Wittgenstein with Francis Y. Lin. Bye-bye for now.